Hello everybody in the FRS Motorsports channel. Welcome back after taking that short little bit of break from an exciting PlayStation Division 1 race that looked like it was going to be just run away with by Dante at the front, but those couple of safety cars kept it in action. It's the last race of the week. PC Division 2 is coming up, and I am joined by the commentator that was on PlayStation Division 1 himself, Mr. AWD Turbo Guy. Hello, how are you doing today?
I am doing wonderful. Yep, PlayStation was exciting. It just seems like we can't get away from any kind of inevitable deaths at Spa. No matter what platform or division you're in, it just is going to happen. So, yeah, but I'm happy to be back. Felt bad seeing you have to commentate by yourself in Division 4 yesterday. That was one heck of a race. Xbox was also a heck of a race. So I'm excited to see what the cherry on top will be here in Division 2 today.
Yeah, I've had the chance to take a breath, let my throat heal a little bit. I'm actually a little bit more froggy today because of all of the talking yesterday. And then, of course, in my foolishness, I stayed up late playing GTA with my buddies and enjoying podium champagne and didn't exactly get a great night of sleep. Now, see, I don't get a lot of podiums in Xbox Division 1. I think I've had now 7 over the course of the 6 seasons, 7 total. So yes, I get myself a bottle of very cheap champagne to commemorate the occasions.
It was very well deserved yesterday as well. Very well deserved, especially being podiumless in Season 5. I was happy to see my OG teammate back on the podium.
Yeah, and I mean, I've missed Spa the previous 2 seasons because of outside engagements, playing gigs and stuff, so it was good to come back to the track and enjoy it. But one thing we have learned across several of the other races that we've seen is that crossover point, the middle section of the race, creates some very interesting tire choice strategies, because obviously medium hard or hard medium is the ideal strategy in green flag conditions. But there's a lot of overlap in the tire life. You can really stretch the mediums a little bit longer if they're safety cars. The hards can go a pretty long way. So usually in that lap, like 7 to 13 range, we've seen drivers making some very interesting calls to try to get to the end of the race.
Yeah, and I think that's something that I think, well, hopefully after seeing enough races here this weekend, that these guys will probably be keeping in mind and planning around a safety car and have all these different strategies figured out as to what they want to do with that safety car and get that free pit stop, because we saw it benefit you and LC Fighter over in Xbox yesterday. We saw it benefit some drivers in PlayStation as well. So I think that there's just going to be an inevitable safety car, and hopefully, well, not hopefully, being an unbiased spectator myself, but for those in there, they might be banking on that and planning around that.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of the drivers in today's race that took part in the PC Div R race that was on Friday. So there's been a lot of drivers in this lobby that have tested some strategies. I know Mercedes drivers are going very, 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 very almost non-existent low wings for straight line speed. It's what I did. It made me just about impossible to overtake. It was really the reason why I had no fear of moving backwards unless I made a mistake. I was only going to go forward. And of course, lucky safety car timing helps out there. But we'll have to see how drivers can get on. The downside of that is that the tire deg is a little bit higher on those lower downforce, because there's such a collection of mid to high speed corners around this track that's where the car really slides around when you have that low downforce. So it does eat the tires up just a little bit more. But we've seen some drivers running long and going pretty quick on this one. We've got Dan Gilligan, of course, in the lobby, who is a rapid driver, typically has just been plagued with the crashes. We saw that in Spain, where he could have been up the front on pace. But of course, Coral out in the front is really one of the front runners for this division.
Yeah, and we saw Archduke as well last weekend. He had a pretty epic run as well, and I know that too I believe made the transition from cockpit cam to the T-cam view, which is just a lot makes you a lot faster, and so we might see him on the podium yet again this time out. But back to the tire talk too. This lap is just so long, and there's not really any good chances to really let the tires cool down and catch a break. So because of that, I just imagine that we're not going to see the soft tires come out for they're only good for about 5 laps, 4 laps of decent pace, but 5 laps before you really start to lose out on those tires.
Yeah, they're rapid in qualifying. They're good for about a lap or two at full pelt, but you lose a chunk of time. In tire testing that I was doing in my preparation for this race weekend, I was finding over an average of a couple of different runs that the soft tire would cross over and be slower than the medium tire after just 3 laps. So you really have to make hay while the sun is shining on that soft compound tire, get out very quickly and get the impression in. Now, the soft tire could be a benefit to those running the lower wing because it'll help make up that difference in the second sector where you need that little bit extra mechanical grip, might offset that lower amount of aero grip, but as you say, likely to not see it unless there's a safety car with 5 or so laps left to go. But it looks like the lobby is just about good, and we are just about to get started. So, I'll send us off to the intro. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the FRS. We are here for Season 6, Round 2 in Spa-Francorchamps PC Division 2. I will take a look. It is the 6th time that the Belgian Grand Prix has been featured in every single season of the FRS so far, so it's a very familiar track. We'll take a look at it now. 7 kilometers in length, 19 corners, definitely the longest of the season. There's 2 DRS zones for your overtaking opportunities, one down into turn 1 and the other into the Lecombe chicane at turn 5. Big elevation changes around this track, and of course with those low wings, drivers will be reaching their highest top speeds over 210 miles an hour down the Kemmel Straight. Your first overtaking opportunity right off the start here, La Source, the hairpin of turn 1. Colder tires are going to make this a little bit more difficult to navigate. We've seen some shambles in other divisions already, but then you get the long run all the way up the Kemmel Straight into the Lecombe chicane. It's your second best overtaking opportunity on the circuit there with that long DRS straight leading into it. That is going to be your best chance to make positions. Now the tires, as we were talking earlier, the mediums are about 0.7 of a lap slower, and the hards about 1.4 seconds slower. But here's the tire life issue. Softs, about 6 laps. Mediums, 11. Hards, about 15. So in this 22-lap race, there's definitely some choices to be made. After round 1, though, Coral has the championship lead over Archduke Oregano with that strategy choice that let them go long in Spain. Arc and Milo in a good position as Stark rounds out the top 5, 2 Mercedes in the top 5. And of course, you're only seeing points from 1 round so far. This leaderboard could absolutely switch up depending on what we see. But drivers are just about done with their out laps now, and we'll get out and join the track and see how everybody is doing once it decides to load the screen. There it goes. So let's go ahead and get the track map up so we can find where people are at. Turbo, what have you been seeing from qualifying so far this race weekend?
Well, a lot of wet running. So I'm excited that we have a dry track this time around, so we'll be able to see actual true pace. In Xbox, I think we had a crossover from wet to dry, but even then, I don't think we saw the true potential of drivers. In PlayStation, we had just a pure intermediate tire running, so I am very excited to see actual times from these guys, and especially in PC Div 2, these guys are just on a different kind of level, and so close. We saw Stark with rapid pace last time out in Spain, and man, yeah, I have no idea what to expect from these guys.
Yeah, we'll jump on board with King Bart, who's the first one to be setting a flying lap down into turn 1 in the Aston Martin, getting the car rotated, straighten out, try and get the throttle down, full throttle as they head down the hill up to Eau Rouge, and then Radion fully flat through that corner, able to keep the confidence on. We'll see what their top speed starts to look at the end of the straight. It'll give you a good indication of what kind of wing levels they're running. Just about 330 kph, only about touching about 210 at the end of the straight there with that DRS, with the extra bit of hot lap power. But a good run through the first sector there. Likely not the highest wing setup that we'll see. You typically see some. So Flashy's already out of the session. Has Flashy had a crash? They have. Flashy's had a crash out of.
There's a couple of drivers that seem to have
It looks like
collected.
in Div 2, it looks like the formation lap is on broadcast, so we are going to a red flag.
Okay. Yep.
We will go ahead and take a moment, as it should be a relatively quick lobby remake. If everybody should be able to, even if they're not getting the messages, see that everybody's retiring and hop out. So we'll go ahead and hop back to our lovely little hold screen as we hang out for just a minute and I get myself into the lobby correct. But you know what comes with a lobby remake, though?
Random weather, isn't that correct?
Indeed, yes. Since we have not done any racing laps and it was in qualifying, you go straight back to dynamic weather. So just as you were saying, it's finally about time to see some real pace. We are back on the chance of rain once again. And yeah, I'll talk a little bit about the Xbox division since you cast it and I took part in driving it. Yeah, it was intermediate conditions at the start of the qualifying session, and it switched over to slick conditions starting about 7 minutes left to go in that session. So the eventual race winner of that one, who was on the cast with you for PlayStation, LC Fighter, like me, was one of the drivers who we only had one shot to set a valid lap time on the slicks. And as you saw from the track limits penalties we saw across some of the divisions, it can be tough to keep it on track, especially when you're pushing right up to the limit. So both of us started at the back of the field with only having our intermediate time set.
Yeah, and it's such a tricky one too, because it's your last lap, but do you find that balance between putting in a banker lap, or because it is the last lap, do you just fully go for it and have the potential of either invalidating your lap or crashing out? So that was something that was exciting to see, but also, yeah, we saw you and LC unfortunately being caught out by that and having to start from the back. But you guys made brilliant runs, so qualifying isn't the full story, just a part of it, and you can certainly end up on the podium and even winning the race from the back of the field.
Yeah, LC, unsurprisingly, is one of the fastest drivers on the grid for Xbox, and of course, with no MJ Povey last week and a Nemesis making a mistake, or no, it wasn't a mistake, it was a mechanical failure, one of the few ones we've actually had, just like Fraser in France, now that I remember scrolling through that conversation. One of our very few mechanical failures that we've had in the FRS history. So an interesting retirement there. It seems that Spa just is a little bit cursed for Nemesis, though. We've seen him retire on a few occasions from the lead of Spa. I believe I want to say season 2, or was it season 3 that he retired from the lead of the race? Actually, it might have been all the way back in season 1. Now that I think about it,
I think it was. Yeah, I believe it was earlier than season 3. I think in season 3 that's when he left the lobby, but then came back when that last safety car came out. It was Spa is just built different, as kids would say these days. And man, we'll already have a red flag. Hopefully that's not a sign of things to come. But with the new rules, meaning that we have to finish within 2 hours, that might come into play later on, especially if we have some wet weather during the race. That'll make these laps even a bit longer, as they're not able to go full tilt throughout. And so that might be one time that we see that rule finally come into play.
Yep. Luckily, it was this time a red flag was surprisingly not a game issue. It was a lobby creation issue where I would say it was partially created by the game and the late adjustments that had to be made to formation lap settings, because we had to scramble with a new bug that we found. So in a way, it was partially the game's responsibility, but not fully. But luckily, we've caught it early. We're going to go ahead and get re-lobbied. They're already loading in just now. Once we get some cars on track, I will bring us back into the game, and we will go ahead and find out what kind of weather we've got. Right now, it looks like, in the Div2 chat, it looks like they may be saying dry. Oh no, they're joking, because there has been issues with the approximate weather and even the perfect weather where it's giving something slightly wrong information. But the sun appears to be out in qualifying, so sun baking down here in the Ardennes Forest, and we will get back to cars on track shortly. Now that does mean I need to turn the track map back on. Oh no, it is on because it was on.
Yeah, I was setting that up as well. It's strange that it was able to catch the track map leaving that on, but it didn't have the telemetry or the lap data enabled. So yet another interesting quirk with this game. But looks like people finally have their setups all loaded.
Yep, and a couple cars making their way down. I believe that first dark blue dot may be, can I guess, Arc nailed it. Alpha Tauri of Arc moving first on. You know, that's at least one of the blue dots that's easy to pick out on the track map. The other ones, if you're going Red Bull, Alpine, Williams, you kind of a crapshoot. You got to really know your colors to get that one dialed in.
Oh yes, yep. If only these, and it doesn't help with the names as well. I think we have like 3-4 teams with names starting with A, 2 of them, both starting with Alpha. So that doesn't help either.
We got Aston Martin, Alfa Romeo, Alpha Tauri, and Alpine are your 4 A teams. And the only A team that is not blue is Aston Martin, but it makes up with another blue team in Williams.
Yes, yep. It's makes it was so much easier. Was it back in 2019 when Alpine was an Alpine, or 2020, and it was easier to be able to differentiate on those maps. But man, these teams are making it so much more difficult for us to be able to make these calls.
Well, plus and minus, because Alpine was Renault, so you'd get the yellow dot, but on the flip side, Alpha Tauri was still Toro Rosso and had a darker blue dot just like Red Bull.
Yep, that's true. It's just never perfect, but thankfully it looks like these track conditions are, as everybody's now out of the pits except for that being Brad Spitt.
Yeah, just one driver left to get out on the track, and we will see if they rejoin as Arc is making their way on. We'll jump to the T-Cam, and we'll get the active speedometer rocking and rolling now that I've fixed that graphic that I apparently broke yesterday. But DRS open for this short blast. Some drivers holding 7th gear. Arc winging one of them down into the corner, a little deep on the brakes. And then up through the gears, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th as you shoot down the hill, and we will once again get an indication of what kind of wing levels drivers are running up the hill through Radeon, just about keeping inbounds. A very safe lap there. DRS flicks open down the Kemmel Straight. Now you can see picking up a lot more speed than what we saw on King Bart's car, over 211 miles an hour before they hit the braking zone. For those of you eagle-eyed watching the steering wheel, I have my stuff set on miles per hour, and our graphics show kilometers per hour, so we can cover both of them.
Best of both worlds, but yeah, a good lap for Arc so far. He held on to that purple Sector 1 for quite some time, and I don't know if anybody else took it from him, but yeah, it seems to be a clean lap so far, a very good banker lap from the Alpha Tauri driver.
Well, they've run a little bit wide through Pouan, but it looks like they've lifted out enough to where the game accepts that it was not an invalidation, that track map not turning red. I've noticed in 2022, compared to previous games, it's a little more forgiving of those slight extensions than old ones. We have some yellow flags through Pouan. It looks like a Ferrari has dropped it.
Yeah, Ferrari flashy spun around. Thankfully, no damage to them or impeded on any other lap, so all good there.
And hopefully Flashy can have a better finish to the weekend than he did last week, getting beached on a curb on the final lap of the race. Luckily, he was able to retain some positions as he was a retirement, but a lap ahead of several of the runners, so only dropped one position really in that one. So early banker lap, 44.4, good solid time. King Bart goes 43.7 though, easily usurps that time by a significant margin. We'll see if we can find just whoever's next. We'll grab the outdoor camera there, and we've got a couple cars crossing. Cruzo is out through Paul Frere, and then we should actually just about get a look here. And just as you expected, you get a little wide on that corner, and you spear into that inside barrier and shoot off. It's one that caught out a lot of drivers in Division 4. Almost all of the retirements were there in Paul Frere. And we saw some issues in PlayStation with guys losing it there as well.
Yeah, and scary too is that the game tends to not ghost these cars once you do DNF. So that is something else that we saw in PlayStation during the race. The car wasn't ghosted, and we almost saw we had a little heartbeat skip as one of the drivers almost made contact with that. But thankfully, nobody this time around getting caught out by that, as these guys are putting in some fairly decent laps. 143. I'd imagine probably by the end of this with a track evolution, we'll be surely looking into the 142s. But King Bart currently on top. Golly right behind him as well.
Yeah, good to see drivers dipping into the 43s early on in this session. I don't recall what the pole time ended up being in. Xbox just start going to the top of the timing sheet. 43.711. Just less than a tenth ahead of King Bart there.
Yeah, nice lap from him. And I think Spa is going to be interesting because the curbs have been remodeled. So we saw Cruzo being caught out by it. But yeah, you can ride these curbs a bit more, even with the new regulation changes and the new floors. You can take quicker lines now than you could in the previous game. So that's also something that we'll have to look out for, as it's already caught out one of our drivers.
Yeah, Archduke Oregano invalidating this lap, although it appears they were just on an in lap. I think just about everybody on the track at the moment has set their lap times. Everybody's got a time in. The only drivers without times so far are either on out laps or in the pits currently or retired. But yeah, you mentioned the curbs. They're a bit more rideable in the 2022 game. They do, especially for the ones in Lake Home and the chicane we're going through just now with Seong. You have to commit to the curbs. You have to almost straddle it completely. If you just put a wheel onto the, orange and red portion on the apex curbing, it tends to still lift up the inside of the car and create that spin. But you really either have to stay off them completely or fully commit to it. So we'll see what kind of drivers opt for in this one, and see who can set the quick times. But looks like we're gonna have a little bit of breathing time, as it looks like some of the drivers are on there. I'll grab Flashy, as he appears to be the furthest along, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, yeah, because I believe that is Stark that is about to pull into the pit lanes. I don't know, keep an eye on the track map. If that turquoise dot continues on, which it doesn't appear to be, then we know that is indeed Stark.
Yeah, well, I was looking at Flashy and his teammate ahead, Rizzo. I was wondering if they were going to be doing a little bit of tow games. We saw it work for Charlie Chibbles in PC1, I believe. He said he gained a couple of tenths down the Kimmel Straight. I didn't see it anywhere else, though, in any of the streams that I broadcasted. So that might be something else to keep an eye out for. But this time around, it doesn't look like the boys in Maranello are going to be doing that teammate strategy this early on in qualifying, at least.
No, not yet, but Flashy's on the flying lap up Eau Rouge rather comfortably. Still doesn't have a valid lap time in the books. And then once again, keep an eye out on that top speed. Just about touching 211 into the braking zone, 211 miles an hour, which would indicate a fairly low wing setup. I think you'll see most of the higher wing setup guys running up to about 207, whereas the lower wings are going to get into over the 210 mile an hour range. Now, in race conditions, if you catch that slipstream on top of it when you're trying to overtake, you can get up to where you're revving out 8th gear. And I had one situation, I think I nearly touched 218, making an overtake down into Lake Home.
Yeah, which again just goes to show how much different these cars are with the aero changes and a lot of the downforce being produced coming from the underfloor of these cars. And it's just amazing how much more powerful that makes the DRS, and with such a long run on the Kimmel Straight. As Flashy invalidates, unfortunately, and so they're gonna have to bail out. But yes, we've seen so many overtakes being done there through the Kimmel Straight and putting the cars alongside heading through Lake Home.
Yeah, and it's a great switchback. You'll create that right-left-right combination at the end of a DRS straight. If you're not able to get fully clear into the braking zone, it allows the other car to shoot back. And of course, you have that very short run down to Rivage, which is that long right-hander after that. So we've seen in other divisions, if that move's not done, if you're not fully clear on into the braking zone, the battle continues for another good 4 or 5 corners.
It really does, and it was cool to see it play out in real time because you see these drivers have the option of either setting themselves up on the inside or the outside and being able to get moves done through that chicane after the Kimmel Straight. And so it seemed like neither one was a bit better than the other. I guess if I had to say, I think coming in the outside, so you're setting yourself up on the inside through the second corner, it seemed to work a little bit better for those guys. But again, I guess we're just gonna have to see what these guys can do come race time.
Well, side by side, as it looks like that Haas not really getting out of the way as Milo was finishing a lap time there. That is not going to be good news for Dog, as I believe they were getting ready to start their flying lap, but they didn't quite get it started in time. So they're invalid already because they were forced to go wide. We'll grab, I believe that might be Brad Spit crossing the line. Nope, starting a new lap. So we'll jump on as they are one of the few that does not have a valid lap just yet. Flashy's still in the pit lane getting his tires changed as he was one of the last to attempt a brand new flying lap. And we'll just keep an eye on the timing tower as some lap times start to come in. But Brad Spit up Eau Rouge rather comfortably. Sorry for interrupting. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say track evolution has just been... we've seen it in the previous game that it was a thing, but it just seems to be so much more powerful this time around. So these times are definitely going to be tumbling come the end of this qualifying session.
Agreed. Yeah, I've definitely noticed that track evolution is a little bit stronger this time around. And as usual, it comes in about that 5-minute mark. There is a stopped car or a very slow car through the first sector. We've got yellow flags, so it's hard to see what the actual session timer is saying because of it. But we should be somewhere, if I'm ballparking, somewhere around 7 minutes to go in this session.
Looks like 6.5 minutes, just under that. So yeah,
that was close.
Yeah, a lot better than I would have been able to guess. I have no idea.
Coral goes to the top of the timing sheets. Coral has set a new provisional pole, goes just about half a tenth quicker, up to a 43.630. Now, I wonder if some of these slower moving cars are cars that have run out of fuel. No, that is just a car facing the wrong way. Seung is stopped completely. If they don't get moving again, which they are waiting for them to clear, you just need to make sure they get out there before they get it. But it may be, and I'll try and jump on and see, they may be in low fuel mode, which, no, the car's accelerating normally. So it appears if you squint very closely onto the dash, there seems to be 1.4 units of fuel left in. But we'll grab King Bart, who is on a flying lap, but 2.4 seconds off their previous best. So likely not going to be setting any blinder of a lap time there. We should just about have. There's a yellow flag over Eau Rouge. It looks like a Red Bull has lost it.
Yeah, Dr. Zados missing an end plate on the right side there. So that's going to be him off of this fastest lap. So he'll have to go into the pits. Thankfully, he does have enough time to be able to at least put in one more flying lap. But, I mean, in these dry conditions, are they going to be able to do double push laps if the time allows for it?
The soft tires are going to degrade significantly in that time, and the amount of battery you use around this lap, it only leaves you with about 30% left in the tank when you finish a flying lap. So I don't think there's enough battery to really do a double push. You'll run out as you come up the Kimmel Straight.
Yeah, so, thankfully we don't have to worry about that now. It looks like Flash is the only one without a valid lap time, but they are on a flyer, and it hasn't been invalidated yet. So, nice job for Flash this time around, but there's not that much time left for these guys in this session.
No, we're getting into that sweet spot. We're under that 5 minutes to go, so that's where the track evolution really kind of ramps up to its maximum. Showing is a purple middle sector. Of course, we know that F1 has had that bug for a long time where it'll show a purple middle sector even if it's not a true purple middle sector. But we will see what he can do into it. He's hitting the minute 30 mark, got about 13 seconds to make these final two corners and set a lap time. It's going to be very nip and tuck with pole position. Gets on the throttle out of the bus stop chicane. Here he comes across the line, goes to a 44.1, so up into the top 10, a P6 result there. We will find the next on the track, I believe. That is Arc, who is the next one that is actually on a flying lap. Catching up to the back of a Red Bull is just slammed on the brakes to get out of the way. That's a dangerous way to do it. And I'm sure Arc coming up Eau Rouge was kind of hoping that Red Bull would continue on at least halfway down the straight and get a little cheeky slipstream from the sister team there. But a good run so far, it looks to be. And we'll keep an eye as they head through the second sector. There's yellow flags. It's just a car moving out of the way of the Mercedes of Milo, as Stark is opting to hang out in the pits.
Yeah, a lot of people coming out on their outlaps now. I'd imagine this is probably going to be their final flyers that they're currently prepping for. But Arc looking good so far, as he's going to come up to the end of Sector 2 here in a little bit. So we'll be able to see how he's been able to do on his flying lap. But it seems to be good so far. There's a little time left on the table, but looks to be good. Yep. Oh, only 4 thousandths improved, but he does take a purple middle sector. But again, you mentioned that is a known bug, so yeah, nice job from Arc so far in the AlphaTauri.
It could be, it couldn't be. We'll just have to find out when we get to the end. Now, of course, most tracks, your Sector 1, Sector 2, Sector 3 are relatively evenly split. It's a little harder to track the progress of a car around Spa because the middle sector is about twice as long as the first sector is. You typically see about 30 or just under 30 seconds in the first sector, and then nearly 45 seconds you spend in the middle sector. So it's hard. You really got to wait a long time. We're going to try and find somebody who is on a flyer. It looks like Seung is on a flyer now, coming up over the top of Eau Rouge and Radion. We will hop on board and take a look and see how they are heading down. DRS open, full throttle. Yellow flag on the inside. That's just a car getting out of the way rather safely. Finds the braking point just ahead of that 50-meter board. Pitches it in and just eases on the throttle. Stays just in bounds. That is a corner where you can invalidate by being on the inside a little bit too easy. But a good run so far through that first sector.
He's a 10th up, and if he continues on this path, he could put himself up above P9 and possibly looking at P8, P7, depending on his next 2 sectors for this lap.
Yeah, and they're approaching a Mercedes on an outlap, so that should be Stark just ahead. Should easily hop out of the way once they get through Stavilo and Paul Frere. They should be able to get a good run. They might catch even just a little bit of a slipstream on these other 2 cars up ahead. Yeah. There's both, it looks to be both Mercedes actually, back to back. So Milo diving completely out of the way, making sure he's absolutely not impeding anyone at all with that way of getting out of the way. And he should be just about safe to come through the bus stop with this McLaren of Coral ahead. Coral trying to wind up for the fast lap though, and that's going to get very nippy. You take that wide entry, but Seung improves by half a second there. You wonder if there was a little bit of time left on the table because of that. Nip and tuck with Milo. Luckily, the Milo had already done their flyer, I think, although they may have bailed out and tried to go for a recharge lap. We'll keep an eye on, I believe, let's jump to Coral. I think they're the furthest up the field with their best shot for pole position. We'll see what kind of time they can put as they hit the first sector split here. And
I believe the Mercedes guys are giving each other a little tow here. So Milo being impeded by Sungjae, but it looks like, he was giving his teammate a little tow for Stark there.
Project Stealth is out of the session just on the exit of turn 1, it appears. There's some yellow flags there. Unfortunately, while I was paying attention to that, I missed the sector split for Coral, as the checkered flag is now waving.
Everybody out. Coral looking good. Not much traffic ahead of him that he'll have to worry about as these guys are on their final flyers. And like you said, that checker flag out. Rizzo, the only one in the pits as we drive by a car stopped on track there. But Coral looking good. Ooh, down. He's a 10th down as he comes across the car.
As he's about to cross the next split. Improved by 3/10, so Stark on pace to take over pole position. Got to navigate this little bit of traffic here as he catches 2 cars on the extra puffer. I don't think that's cost them any time. Here we are through the left-hander Blanchimont, flat out now, heading all the way down. Where are they going to find their braking point? Into the bus stop chicane. Don't go deep. Hook on the inside curve. Flick the car left. Around now. Ease the throttle in as there's lots of bumps on the exit. He should just about have it. Crosses the line, 43.4, and goes on to provisional pole. We'll catch up now. Next on the list, Gali, who is in P3. Nope, they have bailed
not
out.
Going to be able to improve. Yeah.
We'll see. Zados, I believe, is on a slow lap. No, they are on a fast lap through Blanchimont on 1 minute 30 seconds, finding the breaking point. They have an opportunity to move up the grid, flicks it left, and once again, big snap of oversteer, trying to catch it, and that is going to cost them a huge amount of time. So they're just going to limp their way across the start-finish line there. Dan Gilligan into the pit lane, and that is all for this qualifying session. Stark picking up, crucially, that slipstream. If that thing's worth 0.2 of a second, that's pole position. So Stark on pole, shares the front row with Coral. Gali in P3 with Archduke Oregano, who overall you'd say had the best pace on the grid in Spain. Coral with the slightly better strategy than Archduke. But then King Bart just behind their Aston Martin teammate. Seung is P6, Zato 7th, Flashy 8th, Dog 9th, and Riso rounds out the top 10. Dan Gilligan, just a couple hundredths from making it into the top 10 in 11th. Arc is 12th. Then you've got Brad Spitt, Tez, Milo, and a couple others now that I can't see the screen.
Yeah, great qualifying session. The Mercedes guys, the only ones to take advantage of that toe, and it's just so powerful down that Kimmel straight. As you mentioned, in race trim, we'll be seeing these guys at over 215 miles an hour possibly with that toe, so it certainly must have helped out getting Stark onto that pole position.
Yep, and the McLarens bookending the grid, much like we did in Mercedes and Xbox Division 1 with Queasy taking pole position there and me starting dead last. And we'll see if McLaren can do what we did in Xbox and turn it into a double podium. So it should be a good run. Of course, turn 1 is going to be interesting. If I'm not mistaken, formation lap is off because of the bugs. So people will have relatively cold tires going into turn 1. Braking distances will be very long. If you're Stark and you're sitting P1 on the grid, do you almost consider just running through turn 1, going wide onto the runoff in case people behind you go Bottas bowling and miss the braking points?
Yeah, I mean, it really isn't a bad idea because somebody already readies up, but it really isn't a bad idea, especially with the cold tires, and we've seen so many people just absolutely send it up T1, even though we try and stress time and time again, the race is never won into T1, it's only lost. So, but some people just might not get that message, and Stark may play it safe and go wide there.
Yeah, in yesterday's race starting last, I don't think I put full throttle down until I was halfway up Eau Rouge. I started at the back and I just eased my way through turn 1. But everybody's on the grid, hopefully with enough time to get their strategies set. And we are waiting as the lights go out. Looks to be a decent release for Stark. Has gotten away fairly well. Gali's gotten a very good launch. Coral getting eaten up by the pack a bit. And Stark just easing through, and you can see just how much understeer there is. Gali's gotten the car rotated very well through turn 1. It looks like we're mostly clean through the pack. A few positions being traded here and there. And look at this. They're actually sort of sorting themselves out before they head up the hill to Eau Rouge. They're pretty much all single file. So well done avoiding the shambles from this group. And King Bart has had a very good run now using that straight line speed. Coral switching it back to the inside. We'll catch this 3 wide as they head into Lake Cove the first time. Coral up the inside. Canning State. Gully leaves the space and now switching it back. Oh, contact. Little bit of a touch there as 2 cars have gone wide. Dog is out. Dog is out of the session. Seung is out. Gully is out. We've had 3 retirements after just a tiny touch. That is a full safety car being called. Oh, my.
Oh, so yeah,
I blame this one entirely on Riemann, who in the chat went Div 2 least shambles. No, you just had to wait a couple extra corners for the shambles to arrive, because here they were. It looked like a fairly innocuous touch. Looked like Gully just understeered a little bit as they made the switch into the second portion of Lake Home, and just got that little bit of a pendulum effect where the front end comes around, and then there was just nowhere to go for the cars behind. So, oh man.
Lots of cars without front wings too. We have Cruzo without a front wing, Project Stealth without a front wing, and Daniel Gilligan as well. All of them getting caught up in that carnage through Lake Calm. So those guys are going to be having to come in for the pits to get a new front wing. And of course, those hard tires probably not going to be able to make it to the end. So I'd expect them to be stopping another time round. But it's just too early for these guys to be getting any kind of free pit stops as well.
Yeah, and this is one of the rare occasions where if you are a driver with damage, you consider the soft tires because you only have one set of mediums and one set of hards. You can't get the hards to the end of the race as they are now. You probably go for wing repair, put on a set of softs, catch up the pack again, and then hope for another safety car, or you'll be able to run the softs to about where the hards will get you to the end of the race. So once the softs start dying off, if you are forced to pit under green flag, you go ahead and go to the hards. I believe, personally, that's the right call. We will see what everybody in here opts for. We didn't even get a chance to see what tires people started on yes. because it happened so quickly. Archduke Oregano up at the front on the soft tires. So Dan Gilligan onto hards, Cruzo, Riso, Project Stealth all on hards. Arc, the only one of the damaged runners to opt for those soft tires. Flashy in a good position on the hard tires up near the front of the grid. Archduke Oregano is going to have to hope for another safety car, I would assume. And Stealth has lost the rear end on the cold tires on the exit of there. Luckily, they get auto reset to track out of the way. We have seen drivers, sometimes the game will just disqualify you for being parked in a dangerous location there. It happened to Renovatio in the Div 4 race, but on the pit entry, and he got very quickly disqualified. But shouldn't take long for the pack to catch up. We will likely only have one more lap or so under safety car conditions. And now we can take a look at the big movers. Milo up 8 positions, managing to thread their way through the disaster. So is Tez and Brad Spitt, all making good moves. Cruzo from the back of the field is up into 5th by just avoiding the crash. Stark maintains P1. King Bart, a good jump 3 positions up. Coral losing out on that one spot. Archduke Oregano just right where they are.
Yeah, amazing from Cruzo. Granted, he did start from dead last, like you mentioned, from his DNF and qualifying, but even with picking up wing damage, because so many others picked up wing damages too, he's still in this race, and it helps that the safety car as well is neutralize this and allow everybody to catch up. But yeah, big move from Cruzo and from Milo. Nice job to those guys.
Yep, so your running order, Stark leads from King Bart, Coral, Archduke Oregano, Dr. Zados rounds out the top 5. Flashy is ahead of Milo, Tez, then you've got Brad Spitt and Dan Gilligan, who is in the points paying positions ahead of Arc, Cruzo, Riso, and Project Stealth. 3 retirements on the first lap. Almost matched what PlayStation did in Spain with 4 on the first lap, although PlayStation did it before even reaching turn 1.
Yeah, that was very impressive. And to think that we were congratulating these guys for having such a smooth start to the race, and even up through you, Rogan Radeon. They were single file, and all it took was just one of the front runners to have a little bit of contact, and it was fairly clean racing up until Golly was spun around facing the wrong way, and that just kind of triggered the shambles that we see now.
Yeah, I mean, I was impressed because they all got themselves sorted coming up into Radeon and Eau Rouge. Like, they got into a single file line and did the smart thing, and I thought, for sure, we were off to the races, and yet here we are with a full course yellow and 5 drivers pitting for damage. So that's a big shambles. Five picked up damage and 3 retirements in one incident.
Almost half the field. We just needed one more car to pick up some damage, so that half the field would have had some kind of problems, but. Yeah, and as you mentioned in the Div 4 race yesterday, yellow just breeds yellows, and we've seen it time and time again in other divisions here. We saw it with PlayStation as well. Hopefully, we can hope that that's not going to be the case this time around, but yeah, I would like to see a decent spa race without too much damage being done up and down the field.
Yeah, if they can get a couple of laps in cleanly, I think that really reduces the chance of another safety car coming out. Lets the field spread a bit, but we've seen in other divisions, usually within a couple of laps of a safety car restart, there is another one, and it's really starting to feel a bit like a NASCAR weekend across all the divisions, as there's a big snap of oversteer from Riso in the background there, trying to warm those hard tires. Kind of tough to get those tires up to temperature. Archduke Oregano is going to be in a good spot up at the front of the field with those soft tires. Much easier to get heat into them. Arc may actually be able to jump a couple of positions on those soft tires as well. So we'll keep an eye out on how they make their way up, as lots of burnouts being done by Cruzo trying to wiggle the rear end and get it sorted out, as it looks like Flashy and Zados have overlapped. Safety car is in this lap though. So we'll jump on with our race leader. We'll pull up lovely telemetry so we can see just when Stark opts to send this one back to green flag racing.
Yeah, and with such a long Sector 3, relative to speed, that is, these guys having to drive at a slower speed, um, it's not really an opportune place to try and restart. We've seen a lot of the guys go ahead and get their restart coming out of that final chicane at the bus stop. But Dr. Stark may try something different. Who knows?
Yeah, we've seen it kind of 50-50, drivers either waiting for the main straight or drivers sending it right after Blanchimont to try and build a little bit of a gap and be braking from full speed into the bus stop. But this time, very clearly, has opted to wait as King Bart is nipping at their heels. He still is not yet gone. He can kind of just park it on the apex, and now they've gone. And King Bart's gotten a pretty good release off the corner there. We'll keep an eye on the timing towers. It looks like Milo has lost the position to Tez further down, but Stark once again through turn one. And oh, it looks like King Bart has got a run on Stark there. So down the hill they come, picking up plenty of speed, although we know Stark is running the lowest wings you possibly can. And look at the gap he's opening up now that he's got he just got straight line to go. So it was 2/10 as they were coming out of the first corner, and he's gained nearly a half a second while King Bart has been in the slipstream. Looks like Archduke Oregano may be having a look up on the inside of Coral. No, Flashy and Zados side by side will grab the Red Bull, and Ferrari's dicing it out as Zados, using those medium tires, gets past Flashy on the hards. Arc is close up in the pack with Daniel Gilligan. We will see if he's going to make a move, although Milo is right on the back of Flashy as well. So this mid-pack seems to be a good battle to keep an eye on at this stage of the race. But a good restart from Stark, but you can see already the time closing back down through the middle sector as King Bart has that extra downforce.
Yeah, I'm paying attention to these hard tire runners to see how they're getting on. And surprisingly, Arc isn't really making much use out of his soft tires. I think he's just kind of in an awkward position with cars ahead of him also battling, so there's just not really any good opportunities to overtake Daniel Gilligan ahead of him.
Yep, and at the front of the field, King Bart's gone around. I was just about to switch to King Bart because he had closed it to about 1/10 of a second on Stark before they hit the straight, but that is some serious front wing damage. He's got to wait for the entire field to come around. It looks like we've avoided virtual or any safety car. That's just breathing space for Stark at this point. But we'll get back to the battle involving Milo, who is on the back of Flashy. Arc still just kind of stuck up behind Dan Gilligan at this point. But no, nothing more than a local yellow for that one, and that is going to be very tough for King Bart. It's a tricky corner. You just get on the throttle too aggressively, and around you go.
Yeah, we've seen so many people caught out there before in other races, but yeah, thankfully King Bart managed to not have any kind of front suspension damage, as Milo is getting a nice run on Flashy right now, heading on the Kimmel Straight.
I gotta say, with the new color scheme on the Ferrari with that all-black front wing, coming through the shadows at a quick glance, it looked like Flashy was missing their front wing entirely. But Milo, I think, also is using that extremely low wing strategy and is breezing by on the straights. Arc is fallen over a second off the back of Dan Gilligan, so those soft tires really not working at all. We'll jump up to Dr. Zados, as we should have, if my math is correct, the safety car, DRS enabled at the start of next lap. So we should be able to see some moves being made down the Kimmel Straight a little bit easier, but Coral just teasing right at the edge of that 1 second margin. If just about closing into a Stark has the straight line pace, is going to be very difficult to overtake, but I would say Coral and Archduke Oregano's innate pace is probably a little quicker than what Stark has.
Yeah, and unfortunately, you mentioned Arc. It looks like his tires are coming off, which is just not great news for Archduke, as he's had his softs on even longer since the start of this race. And so I think he's going to be focusing more on Dr. Zados behind than Coral ahead at this point.
Yep. Unfortunately, it looks like Arc was essentially proving my estimations wrong of strategy, as Coral sets the fastest lap of the race. DRS is now enabled, but you kind of have to hope for a cheeky extra safety car in order to get it, because the hard tires are not going to quite make it to the end. Everybody's essentially, even those who have made a pit stop, are going to have to make another pit stop to get to the end of this race.
Yeah, which is good news for the medium tire runners, those who didn't pick up any damage, as that means that they don't have to worry about any kind of any kind of potential overcuts being done by those guys staying out longer as Dr. Zados finally gets that move done on Archduke. And I guess, I mean, you start wondering, is this the time for Archduke to come into the pits now and get off those soft tires, or do you stay out and wait for hopefully another safety car and getting a free pit stop?
You got to get off the tires. At this point, it probably one more lap or so, and Archduke will start to get into puncture territory with those softs. Now, granted, my testing was it hit the 75% magic number at 6 laps of green flag racing. We've had a couple laps under the safety car now, though. It's still, it's only takes 1 lap to really build a lot of wear in. This yellow flag.
Oh,
is that
Stark's round.
Stark has gone around. Stark has spun
round.
it. It looks like he's kept it out of the wall, but Stark is going to just drop down the field, looking to find a safe place to rejoin. And it looks like he is back up and slots in just ahead of Riso, but he's dropped completely out of the points. Oh, Riso pushing him through the corner.
It's Milo, the other Mercedes spun. Oh! Another spun round. Milo spun round. Looks like he's missing a front wing, and we saw Cruz
out of the race
getting some contact as well.
So no retirements from the two spins, but a nightmare of a lap for the Mercedes team, running 2 cars in the top 5, and now 2 cars out of the points. Although Stark just on the border there in P10. Lucky for Stark, I think Stark has avoided any kind of damage. Milo, though, is going to have to take a pit stop on this one. Now, Milo can, if he hasn't already, and I'll check, Milo can probably put on the hards and go to the end of this race. It'll be close. You'll have to do a little bit of management of the fronts, and they are coming into the pits. So we will just keep the tire graphic up for a moment to see what tires they do opt to go on to. They should be just parking in their pit box. Riso with the 3-second time penalty. Archduke Oregano stays up. So Milo is on to the hard compound tires. We'll keep an eye on their progress throughout the race, see if they can make it out. Down through the field, flashy. Catch it just right as Brad Spitt goes around. And no Tez. Sorry, there's 2 Alfa Romeos, and I guessed the wrong one. But Flashy seems to be getting their nose involved in a lot of incidents so far in this race. I think there was contact on that one as well, and I don't think Tez is going to be particularly happy about that one. Flashy getting the elbows out on this one. We'll have to see some of the offboard or the onboard cameras to see what's going on. And we'll see if any of those get in. It looks like Milo has had a mistake at the top of Rouge. We've got a Project Stealth. It looks like a Red Bull has lost it through Puan. He's still just had a spinner. It looks like he's kept out of the trouble with the runoff as Tez comes back through. It looks like Tez still has their front wing attack. But the shambles are quite well spread out. Dr. Zados has closed up to Coral. They are just about in DRS range now in that Red Bull. They're both on the medium compound tires, both the same lifespan. We'll just have to see what kind of straight line speed they have compared to each other. Archduke Oregano is into the pits. It's time to get rid of those soft tires. That is not ideal to have to make that stop under green flag conditions. But let's jump on and grab Coral's telemetry, see what kind of top speed they're getting to. As it's a half a second the margin, Brad Spitt and Flashy are dueling through turn 1 as well. We'll catch up with that battle as they come up the hill. Arc is into the pits to get off of those soft tires as well. Dr. Zados closing. He's got the DRS. Gonna have a lunge? No. Has a look, bails out of it. We'll catch now Flashy and we'll dip out here as they're gonna cruise right past Brad Spitt. Is Dan Gilligan gonna have a look? He sends it up the side. Oh, Dan Gilligan's all over the curbing. He's gone in a bit late and I think jumped the curbing to avoid a big collision as Stark has cleared Riso now. It's all kicking off here on lap 8 as there's battles up and down the field. But my goodness, it looked like a big slide from Stark coming through Rivage there. But it looked like Dan Gilligan thought about going for a big send and realized there's no way this is a good idea and just went fully onto the inside curb and avoided a big crash. Surprising.
Yeah.
So, I'll let you take it for so I can take a breath.
Great. Yeah, that was great avoidance by Dan to avoid any kind of contact with Brad Spitt ahead as Flashy was getting that move done on him. But yeah, I've been watching Dr. Zados and Coral. It looked like Dr. Zados had some pace to catch up to Coral, but now it's just kind of neutralized. And Dr. Zados has been hanging on, but they've been building a huge gap to the guys ahead. It helps that Archduke and Archduke came into the pits. But these guys are going to be coming around looking at their pit windows opening up here in a few laps time as well for these medium runners, as the field is starting to spread just a little bit now, but we have some battles still going on up and down. But man, we have seen some interesting driving, a lot of spins happening, and we're not even halfway through the race yet. So I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Only one safety car, so props to Div 2 for managing to keep clean, but a lot of front wings, and I think it's going to be quite expensive for these teams this weekend.
Gilligan's going to have another go. He's got the run. DRS is open. He's on the hard. He's going to streak right through. Now, he's already made that stop on those hard tires. He is getting past Brad Spitt, who is on a set of 8-lap-old mediums. It's about the crossover where the mediums start to become slower than the hard compound tires. So that time, just waiting one more lap, was able to more comfortably make it through, although Brad Spitt is still all over the gearbox. I believe Dan might be running a lower downforce setup. He's got to try and bridge the gap to Flashy now, though, for a podium position.
Yeah, he can definitely do it. It can happen today for him. There's a Red Bull of Project Stealth spun around. Thankfully, it looks like his front wings still intact. But yeah, Daniel Gilligan looking good. And I got to say, I'm really liking the people who have pitted for those hard tires, as they're going to be in a prime position to go onto the softer medium tire compounds, and will have that pace advantage to the guys who are going to be forced to take the hard tires, such as Coral and Dr. Zados ahead.
Yeah, and I think starting on the soft compound tire is going to hurt Archduke Oregano. I've got the leader gap up now. You typically lose about 19 seconds in the pit lane under green flag conditions here. Archduke is 24 seconds off the back of Coral, so Coral essentially has that pit stop gap available to them. We'll jump back up to this battle near the front. Correction, I'm going to jump to the battle at the front because they are a little bit closer. Dr. Zados once again closing on the back of Coral. We'll see if they are going to be able to carry the speed. If they've got, that is a great angle. That is absolutely the angle I want to see for the car ahead, is the rear wing. So let's grab the onboard, has a look to the inside. Not quite close enough to make a move stick. We've got a couple other cars coming down the Kemmel Straight. We'll grab that group. Looks like Brad Spitt closed their DRS very early, actually, into the braking zone. Did not actually try to make an overtake. Riso a little far back of Stark in the background there, not quite able to affect a move just yet. As the yellow flag, once again, as Project Stealth has spun that Red Bull coming out of the pit lane, or through turn 1, it would appear. Although, seems to be relatively safe once again. So, there's battle for P1, there's a battle for P3 and 4, as they're starting to form a little bit of a train. Stark's got to close up a little bit to catch this screw. Got about 2.8 seconds. I don't know if you might be able to check and see what their paces are the last couple laps between Stark and Brad Spitt.
Absolutely.
I'm curious to see if Stark is indeed eating into that gap or if it's maintaining a kind of level flight at this stage. Milo sets the fastest lap of the race, unsurprisingly on a set of fresh, soft tires off the back, and going to try and hope that he's last car running, or one of the cars running in the end, that can scoop up that extra point, I think.
Looking at Stark's times, it looks like he's still comfortably pacey with these medium tires. He's at around 148.4 last time around, 148.7, and 148.3 after he had his spin. So he's definitely still making the use of those tires. For Stark, as I go ahead and take a look at Brad Spitt, he's a bit slower. 148.8 last time around for him, a 150 before that. So yeah, Stark doing a good job to catch up to Brad Spitt.
Yeah, but it might turn that battle for the podium position into a multi-way fight as yellow flags once again. Project Stealth just not getting the traction on the car. It's possible that he's running too high of rear tire pressures, because especially at that corner there, Paul Frere, where he's gone around. We'll catch and just make sure he's got no damage. Looks to be relatively clean once again. If you just put the throttle down, you can really, flash heat the surface temperature of the rear tires. And Daniel Gilligan, speaking of a spin, Dan Gilligan is around. He's got the car 180'd nicely and stays to the inside so Stark and them can get through clearly. Honestly, that's a pretty slick rejoin from the man.
Yeah, the man who does acting outside of this, I guess he's putting in a little video for potential stunt driving opportunities as well. Lovely spin from him, but yeah, unfortunate. I really wanted to see what he would be able to do with those hard tires having his pit earlier, and how that would play out in the latter stages of this race.
Yeah, but he's still well within the pit window, and one of the things that has changed, or he's in points rather, but one of the things that has changed with the 2022 tire model compared to 2021 is that it's not like your tires aren't completely dead if you have a spin. They actually get back down out of the super hot temperatures much quicker than last year. So you can get back to speed and continue on those tires a little bit more. It's not quite the death sentence it was in the previous game, although there's yellow flags. And that's Cruzo. Cruzo has lost it through the area we see it. Paul Frere, that flat out right-hander. See if we can get an off-board shot anytime soon and check and see if he's managed to keep it out of the walls. His run through Blanchimont says that seems to be relatively safe. Here we are back at the front. Coral, Zados, P1 in the balance. And we are just about getting to the stage where these medium tire runners need to come in. I mean, they're 12 laps deep on these tires now. I'm sure both of these medium tire runners are hoping for a safety car to try and make that move to have a cheap pit stop, but they're going to get into puncture territory. You can go about 12, 13 laps. There's been those 3 laps under safety car, so I would say no later than lap 14, these guys need to come in. Medium soft is just not on the cards, and Brad Spitt is out, and they may
safety car.
We may get that safety. It is the safety car. Safety car has been called. So right when Coral and Zados need it, they've got it. On the inside, after coming out of the Lecombe chicane into the inside barrier, Brad Spitt has binned it.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for Brad Spitt, but incredibly lucky for these medium tire runners to get that free pit stop and get onto the hard tires. Although I have to say, throughout this last couple of laps, these clouds have started to roll in a little bit, and it's getting a little bit dark and cloudy up above the track.
Well,
so
we do have a lovely
if we're
bit
going to see some
weather
rain towards the
graphic,
end.
and we'll see if it is actually correct. But on stream now, it looks like there may be a chance of rain in the next 10 minutes.
Well, then, that makes tire choice interesting. If you do see some rain, if we see some wet weather tires, what tires do you opt for as that rule of having 2 different tires? Ooh, Zados! 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane.
That's
what tires would you put?
That is a big mistake under safety car conditions. You're only going to have less than 10 laps of racing, and hard tires go on for Coral. No risk there. They're just going on to the hards. They come out just ahead of Zados as expected. Stark has stayed out on the mediums. Interesting decision. Do they think... Is Stark gambling on the rain now?
Surely he has to be.
With some extra safety car laps, those mediums can go a little further. We'll grab the halo cam because you tend to be able to see the streaks of water come in when it does. It's gotten very dark. It's gotten very dark very quickly.
Fast. And a good indicator as to when it is wet weather conditions. We see people opting for the soft tires as well. So a good indicator is when the race control disables DRS. That is usually an indicator for the crossover point. But yeah, I have to imagine that Stark is just going to be waiting and hoping for this rain to come down and get a pit stop.
This is a complete gamble from Stark, because if it does not rain, he's going to have to pit within the next 2 to 3 laps to get off of those medium tires. And it'll be under green flag conditions after the field has been bunched up. So he will drop straight to the back of the field.
A good saving grace for him might be how spread this field was. With all that green lap running that we got, green flag running, we saw the gap start to form a little bit. So he has his teammate Milo way far back there on some old softs catching up. So the safety car, he'll get some more running under the safety car with those tires, but also more crucially, that'll allow this potential rain to come in and save him with his gamble.
We'll take a look at the penalties real quick since somebody was asking. Zados, of course, with that 5 seconds for speeding on the pit lane entry. Riso, 3 seconds for track limits. Cruzo has 6 seconds for 2 infringements of track limits.
Curious decision as well for Milo. Both the Mercedes drivers deciding to stay out. Milo on some 5-lap-old softs. Granted, we are under some safety car running, so that'll be nice for him. And Stark with those 12-lap-old mediums. Oh boy, it is getting darker and darker by the minute as these cars continue to run round, and the safety car continuing to stay out for another lap.
Yeah, and the weather telemetry that we're pulling for this weather graphic says 52% chance of rain within 5 minutes now, increasing to 71% in 10 minutes. So Zados is into the pits. They're going to make a tire change. Let's bring up tires to see what they've gone on to. They've gone to for the hard compound tires.
I see rain on Halo. I see streaks of rain on the Halo.
There it is. The rain is coming. So did Stark miss a trick by not... Zados is on integers. Zados may be the one who has made the call.
Wow. It is honestly a fantastic gamble for him because the safety car is going to be out.
Cruzo's on inters as well.
Raining.
Cruzo is on
it's
inters as well.
It's obviously raining. And we're under yellow flag conditions, so he doesn't have to worry about the pace differential for these dry runners, these dry tire runners. So this could be a fantastic gamble for Zados if he's able to catch up to the back of these cars, which he should easily do.
Stark has missed the boat. They gambled staying out on rain, and then they didn't come in when the rain started coming down. I'm very confused because the field is going to start to bunch up. If Stark tries to pit at the end of this lap, he'll likely fall all the way to the back of all the dry tire runners at the moment. So you're looking at P10, P9.
Man,
we've been under safety car conditions for a couple of laps now. It's possible that the game does sometimes just, if people are making late pit stops, call the safety car in without the field being fully bunched up.
Yeah, I see some standing water starting to form too on the track. It's definitely getting damp, and I'm not sure, you might have an answer, but I'm not sure if we would even see the race director message pop up saying DRS is disabled or not.
We would see
under
it.
Safety car.
Now, one thing Zados has also done by coming in and pitting again is they've served their 5-second penalty, so they no longer have that looming over their head. So they may have cleared their penalty, gotten onto the ideal tires, and when everybody has to make a green flag stop to get onto the intermediates when the race goes green again, they're just going to cycle right to the front. As is Cruzo, who's been in the wars this race, has spun several times, started at the back. Cruzo is in an opportune place to be on the podium.
What an amazing call from those guys. And Project Stealth as well, who we saw him spinning around. He's granted, they are a little bit far back, so they might be catching up.
Still out.
In there. Yeah, the safety car's still out. And I wonder, because I would imagine that all these guys are going to come into the pits for intermediate tires, but I wonder what that's going to do for the safety car. If Bernd Mylander himself is like, you guys have had enough time behind me. You need to get back to
They're all filtering in now. They're all filtering in. I do believe that the safety car will likely come in this next lap. I don't think it's going to wait for the field to bunch up. But look at, when I watch the timing tower, as Zados just cycles towards the front. Everybody's coming in, making their stops. No, has Zados come in for another stop?
No, for some reason, it told him to stop on track, to slow down and stop on track. I don't know if it was don't overtake, if you got a don't overtake message or something like that for those guys coming into the pits. But yeah, all four of those guys having to...
He might have been ahead of his delta because it hasn't picked up the race leader yet. He may have overran his delta. Flashy has stayed in P1. Flashy has had a very good pit stop and has stayed P1. Cruzo and Zados have jumped Stark. So Stark, I guess, maybe not quite close enough to the back of Flashy. They were running nose to tail, but Zados and Cruzo have snuck their way in there, and now everybody's on intermediate tires.
Yeah, it was very strange seeing Zados and Cruzo just stopped completely on track along with two other guys. I was trying to make heads and tails of that situation, trying to figure out what was going on, but yeah, now everybody onto intermediate tires, everybody behind the safety car. 7 laps left. These tires are absolutely going to make it to the end. I wonder if we're going to see heavy rain too.
It's looking very wet out there. It's looking very wet out there. Just these angles you can see. Now, is it full wet conditions? I don't know. Does the weather graphic that we had on screen account for full wet conditions? I don't know. It just shows rain. I don't know that it has a heavy rain option.
Oh man, and we could be seeing Xbox Division 2 Season 4 Monaco happen, where the wet weather tires were faster, or was it the Inters? I think it was the other way around. But yeah, depending on what this weather does, we could certainly see some strategy calls needing to be made towards the end of the race. And of course, being at the end of the race, it just adds that much extra pressure where you think, oh, 2 laps, 1 lap left, 3 laps left, probably isn't worth it, as the safety car is going to be coming in. So yeah, if the rain does start to pick up and this track does not dry out, we might be in for some more interesting calls later on.
Yep, and so we will grab the race leader. We'll grab their telemetry. It'll take just a split second to update on this lovely graphic that Riemann has created for us. We will see. They think they're going too fast. I think they're going to catch the safety. Flashy is just pushing way too hard.
Yeah, he's not restarted the race, but his pace is very fast.
He's caught the safety car. The safety car is not in the pit lane yet. He's going to get auto-braked in this final corner. He's going to cause shambles. There he goes. Okay, safety car's in. He's just easing his way on the throttle. Not able to get full throttle. Now it is. Okay. Now, we will keep an eye on the further back. It looks like Project Stealth has gotten a very good run out of the chicane compared to Arc. Is Arc going to try and dive it up? Dan Gilligan having a little look to the inside of T1. Arc swings wide. Zados and Cruzo are duking it out on their way down the hill here. Looks like Zados has maintained their position just ahead now. How is Stark going to fare in these wet conditions with virtually no wing?
Yeah, that's gonna bite him for sure, and his teammate Miller, who we know is also running low wing. But Zados finally losing position to Cruzo. He went very deep on the brakes in turn 1, and that allowed Cruzo to catch up to him and now overtake him into the Lex Combs.
And it's everybody's still pretty close together. Stark has lost probably the most amount of ground other than Riso in the pack, likely due to that really low downforce setup that they are running. So definitely getting interesting. 6 laps left to go still in this race as the Aston Martins at the back are swapping positions. King Bart and Archduke Oregano. This is going to be a painful day for Archduke Oregano, who came into this race second in the championship. And we'll keep an eye out as the teammates are dicing it up, and they're fighting for points, paying positions, a la Seb and Stroll in France. We'll see if anybody brake checks them in the final corner.
Yeah, and unfortunately, during the pit stops, they were the only team that had both cars, so they were forced to double stack, and that just really hurt them.
Up the
when
inside,
it came to
Arc
positions.
on Project Stealth, who we saw in the foreground there. If I can just grab it, there we go. Arc has made a lunge up the inside of Project Stealth down into Stavilo, has taken that position. Cruzo is on the gearbox of Flashy. We'll catch up with this run for the front. He is all over the back. Flashy to the inside, defensive, side by side. Oh, Flashy's kind of forced Cruzo onto the grass. That is going to make it very difficult. Flashy's just going to, that is not going to win him any points with the steward. He's gone very wide to maintain that position. And I think, I don't think that's going to go too well over with the stewards, as Cruzo is up the outside. Flashy defense to the inside. Cruzo going for the cutback. Up and under, and Cruzo just elbows him out. Cruzo was not left any space by Flashy on the entry to the bus stop. Cruzo was not going to leave any space. Dan Gilligan has gotten past Coral. Coral looked to be threatening Stark just a couple of corners ago, but now Dan Gilligan is up into the top 5. Stark still a fair way off this battle, and now Cruzo is going to have to defend as Zato snuck through Flashy as well. So new running order. Cruzo in P1, although carrying that 6 seconds of time penalties, puts Zados in the virtual lead of the race. Dan Gilligan is dicing today. He is fighting like a lion. He's gone very wide. Oh, it looks like that's up. Are they going to go three wide into Rivage? Surely this is not going to end well. Surely this is bad news.
Oh, man.
Unfortunate for Dan to get forced out. I don't think there was... that was a 3-1 does not go. Oh, there's a big slide and contact between the two. And no. Dan Gilligan to the back of the field.
Dan.
And, the door opened for Coral. Coral stuck their nose in there. And full course yellow.
Another safety
another
car.
safety car called.
Oh, man. Again, Daniel Gilligan, just unfortunate luck with Spa and the rain. It was looking good too, the battles that he was having with Stark. And then just Coral coming in, making it 3 wide, and Daniel Gilligan just getting caught out in an unfortunate spot, not in a great position, on track, and spinning around, now having front wing damage. But thankfully there is a safety car out, so he'll be able to not suffer too big of a blow with that battle. But
it's a tough situation there in Ravage. That long right-hander, it's understeery naturally. And I think as soon as Coral put their nose in and got alongside, there was going to be somebody who came off worst. Stark was caught in the middle 3 wide. He was already pinching Coral down onto the apex curbing and is going to have to make a pit stop, I assume, for damage. He was already pinching Coral down on the apex curbing, and at the same time pinching Coral to the apex curbing still was forcing Gilligan wide. There was not space for 3 cars to go there. I think that if that goes to the stewards, likely will be considered a very, very tough racing incident.
Yeah, Stark, I guess, picked up damage in that as well. And Rizzo putting on some wet tires. So we see the Ferrari guy putting on some wet tires. Stark, I guess, picked up some damage. And Tez
onto dries.
Soft tires?
So we've got one driver who says, it is so wet, I need full wets. And we have another driver who has gone, I think we're about to come out of this. And it's going to be, who is going to be correct?
Man, with 4 laps left to go as well. So, I mean, Tez isn't going to be hurting per se under the safety car, but he just has to be right with the rain stopping soon.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see.
Absolutely, and it's going to be tough too if the track does not dry for Tez to avoid any kind of damage with those soft tires, even behind safety cars. You can see him just struggling for grip out there while I was on board with him. I don't think the dries are the right call. I think that was just some kind of error.
I think he got Jeff. Although it's not Jeff this time, it's Mark. Mark Priestley. They changed it. But we got Cruzo in the lead of this race with 6 seconds of time penalties and 4 laps left to go. This race will actually likely restart very quickly. Typically, the game will leave at least 2 green flags of racing laps. And this is probably pain for Dan Gilligan because Tez is not catching the pack on those softs. He's literally losing time as they continue to the pack. I don't think the softs have enough grip to get to the pack. And if the pack isn't grouped up because of it, Dan Gilligan is going to be 15 seconds off the back because he's stuck behind somebody on dry tires. Now, I will assume
the is staying out.
Luckily, I will assume that Tez is probably going to come in and put on a set of intermediates. But Dan Gilligan's going to still have to press on and catch this pack.
One benefit of that, at least, is that it will put some heat into those tires so that he will have his tires as... Oh, Rizzo getting a 5-second time penalty. What's going on, guys? What's going on here? But yes,
Archdeacon Regino has driven off the track and fallen directly to the back as I was checking something that Riemann was saying to me.
Daniel Gilligan be able to fire up his tires.
And Tez is still out on track. Tez has not boxed.
What is
Riemann
going
is saying
on?
That the percentages update live for the weather forecast, and we are in 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, supposed to see this rain ease up. But we're going to be going back to green flag racing, I think, next lap. So does that help? I don't think it helps. I still think Tez is going to be in an absolute world of hurt for at least another 2 laps, and then there's going to be 1 lap left to go in the race.
It could pay off if the track does dry up fast enough, but I haven't seen in the new game a crossover point from wet to dry, aside from Xbox qualifying. So that was just a different situation. So I don't know how quick it'll dry up for Tez to be able to make those work, and what the pace difference is between the softs in optimal conditions versus the inters on dry track running.
Well, first, for it to start drying up, the rain needs to stop falling. And if we grab the onboard camera and the halo graphic, you can see that the rain is still very much falling. So, luckily, Tez has been able to catch up to the back of the pack. We will see what goes on with Riso on the full wets. An interesting choice there. And I would assume that Tez is going to get eaten up relatively quickly off of these dry tires, because the rain is, as we know, still falling.
Is it? I'm looking at some of these other camera shots. Oh, it is. Okay. I was going to say, it's hard to tell on my screen if it was still raining. But yes, it absolutely is. So yeah, Tez, what are you doing, guy? This is quite a choice
Cruzo's really
here.
hustling burned around. It's still... Archduke has had another mistake somewhere. He's fallen completely off the back of the pack. He was right behind Dan Gilligan. Now he's... So he's spun, and the safety car is not in.
And Archduke is missing a front wing. What
safety
an
car is in this lap now.
call.
Okay, safety car has been called in.
What a late call. Wow.
We've got inters in the top 9, and then we've got wet, soft, inter for the bottom 4. So we will get some information on the screen. It'll be hard to tell when Cruzo goes because they won't be able to go full throttle at all anyway.
Yes. Oh, man.
Cruzo is in trouble because he's got 6 seconds of time penalties, and there's going to be about 3 green flag laps. He's certainly gone now. Away he goes down into turn 1. Has he gotten those tires fired up into the braking zone? It looks like he's got it. We'll grab somebody in the middle of the pack. As you can see, lunging up the inside is Arc.
Oh, man.
Sent it. Just about backed out in this one. And here they are. Single file down Eau Rouge into Radion. Arc has a great run on Coral, though. He's got some serious pace. Dan Gilligan has already cleared Tez, unsurprisingly. Archduke Oregano is also past Tez.
Out of front wing, making it past Tez, so that just shows that these softs are not the move.
That is not the camera I wanted to see because there is a battle going on between these two. Thank you. It also helps if I press the right button. Riso now has 8 seconds of time penalties, so they are going to essentially drop out of the top 10. Dan Gilligan in the catbird seat for a point. After the race that he's had, may score a point today. Cruzo has opened up 1.6 seconds on Zados. We'll keep an eye out on those lap times. There's a possibility. At the rate he's going, he might make 6 seconds in 3 laps. He's almost got 2. But Arc is all over the back of Coral, and this is a fascinating race that is going on. Stark is dropped by King. Oh, Arc's got the tighter inside line. Is there momentum? No, Arc is out. Arc was looking to make their way through, and Arc is out. We'll grab Tez because I know they're not through the section yet to see what has happened and where Arc is ended up. It's too late. It's too late in the race, though. It will not call a full safety car at this point, nor a VSC. So Tez is just going to have to trundle around in pain at this stage. There's no chance. So Cruzo has 2 seconds on Zados. 1 lap in, has made 2 seconds. Just got to keep that same pace for the remaining 2 laps and can take this race win away, even with 6 seconds worth of time penalties and a safety car that gives them only 3 green flag laps. So we may be seeing an interesting result there.
Drive. What a drive. And another thing that will be helping Cruzo is, although not so much anymore, but Dr. Zados was having to worry about Flashy behind, but I think Zados has managed that pretty well for the time being. But yeah, Cruzo's absolutely pumping in some crazy good laps right now to build that gap to Zados behind.
And I'm going to leave it on the leader gap graphic at the moment because you'll be able to see right now Cruzo is shaking out for a P6 finish. With that 6 seconds worth of time penalties. Actually, yeah, so because he will fall behind everybody except for Milo. Project Stealth has an extra 3 seconds, so 2.4 is the margin. It looks like this battle kind of in the mid-pack is, I won't say relaxing, but it's sorting. It's sorting itself out a little bit. Milo just ahead of Project Stealth. Stark well off the back of King Bart, so I think that low wing philosophy is not helping. Now, looking at the track, I don't see any rain falling.
Yeah.
There's no rain has
rain
stopped.
streaks on the halo?
So, here comes King Bart up the inside of Project Stealth into Puano. It's a dangerous place to do it and risky to make a move like that on a driver you know is going to fall behind because, slides. He's rubbed the wall. He may have gotten a little bit of wing damage, but he's still going. There's the yellow, local yellow is cleared. He's reattached to the back of Dan Gilligan, but look at that understeer. He may have picked up wing damage. He's just plowing through that corner. Cruzo not quite making the gap he needs. It's 3.1 seconds. He needs to be at about 4 on that pace. He needs a mistake from Zados. Now, Cruzo in position for a top 5 finish. He is 6.0 seconds ahead of Milo. He will slot in behind Coral at this current rate.
He's absolutely blistering right now. He's put in 2 seconds gaps each lap to Zados. That is impressive, which means that if he keeps that up, it could be a race win for Cruzo.
He needs to make up another 1.5 seconds to secure a podium. 1.5 on this lap will secure a podium. Can Cruzo do it? It's going to be right down to the wire. The man who started P last is in P1 with 6 seconds of time penalties. There is still a little bit of splashing of water, it looks like, from those. But okay, it's up to 4 seconds is the gap to Zados. He has got to make another. He's got to find a second to get P3.
It's not. Yeah, I think he's just run out. He's low on battery too. It seems I've seen the. Yeah, well, I guess the rears are always flashing, but looking at his onboard,
Zados has made a little bit of time. He's caught a little bit up. It's still hovering right around 4 seconds. Cruzo still needs to find 0.7 to clear Coral, and then about a second to clear Flashy, and another 2 total to clear Zados. I don't think he's quite got it in. Now,
It could just take one mistake. These gaps are really close. Coral might be wanting to get a move done on Flashy as well.
Coral having a look. Just up the inside. He's got really just 1 or 2 opportunities left. Archduke Oregano has gotten themselves back just inside the points, so they've managed to get into the points-paying positions. So it won't be a complete wash. Although Coral picking up good positions.
Without a front wing too.
4.3 is the gap to Zados. I don't think he's quite got it. However, 5.4 the gap to Flashy. So he may nip a podium. Coral with his last best overtaking opportunity into the bus stop chicane. Is he going to send it up the inside? No, he's not quite got the legs.
Far back.
And he's right there though. If he could get some, he's going to try and go for the traction. Cruzo takes the checkered flag. Zados though is going to take the race win. Flashy P2. Coral. No, Cruzo has managed a podium. Cruzo has managed a podium by 0.3 seconds. Milo P5, King Bart P6, Stark in 7th. The fight in the final 2 corners between Flashy and Coral created the gap that was necessary for Cruzo to slot in and take a podium after starting last, having only 3 green flag laps with a 6 seconds worth of time penalties, and Cruzo has somehow made a podium. He's knocked his own McLaren teammate, his championship leading McLaren teammate, off the podium, nipped into his own teammate's points. Milo comes home 5th, a top 5 somehow. Stark is 7th. Dan Gilligan picks up a solid P8, 4 points for them. Tez is still just about coming to the end on those dry tires. Just about there. Ease his way through. Let's see how much throttle he's putting in. Go full throttle. Do it, buddy. Come on. There it is. And look at that big wiggle as soon as he hits full throttle. What a conclusion to a relatively long day that we had there. Now, surprisingly, though, it has been just 90 minutes. We still had another 30 minutes.
Oh man, what a insane drive from Cruzo. I didn't even know that I honestly was not thinking that he was going to be able to pull it off. I really didn't think he was doing it. Zados looked pacey in the dry conditions, but Cruzo found it. Cruzo found something in him, and that gave him a podium.
Zados, gambling on the early strategy, was the first to opt for the intermediate tires, made the call at the right time.
And it paid off. Cruzo, not only did he manage a podium with his 6 seconds worth of time penalties, but Zados managed a win, serving a 5-second penalty in the pit lane as well with the gamble that he pulled off.
Yeah, that's true. He did serve that penalty.
What a race to be had.
All right, let me try and grab the screen. Dr. Zados, P1, Flashy, Cruzo, Coral, Milo, King Bart, Stark, Dan Gilligan, Archduke Oregano, Project Stealth rounding out your points paying positions. Riso comes home 11th, just outside the points. Tez limps their way to the finish on those dry tires. Arc up was the first of the retirements on the list, and Brad Spit, Seung, Dog, and Gali all caught in that interesting one.
Wow, that that was such an interesting race. And after after we had that with the start that we had, we thought it was going to be a clean race, and then safety car immediately after they impressed us initially, and then the rain came in, and now the track appears to be dry. So wow.
And the sun will come out tomorrow. What a way to finish off week 2 of the FRS. A tremendous scrap for the final race win, essentially. That was fascinating. It was definitely interesting. But
yeah, and
you can finally breathe.
Yeah, looking back too, where we saw Flashy coming out ahead of everybody in the pits. It does look like those guys who did take that gamble to go do the inters, they did end up getting that delta bug, and so who knows what could have been. Milo may have been even further up than he was expecting, if he didn't get hit with that bug.
Yeah, another bit of Cody's that we had to deal with. I mean, people made it through turn 1 just fine to start today, and we were thinking this might be the least shambolic race of the weekend, and then we were proved wrong. 4 corners later, into Lake Home, there was that big tangle that I'm sure we'll get sorted out a little bit, and then on top of it, the rain showed up. So it's definitely been a exciting day to be a part of the FRS family. So we'll get those the standings updated relatively shortly. We'll get the podiums up as the stewards reports roll in over the course of the week. But we are back to racing once again next week, thick and fast. Where are we going next weekend?
Oh, land of the free, home of the brave, but in Florida, if I remember
Other way
correctly.
around. We're Austin first.
Oh, that's correct. Sorry, excuse me. True American country. I knew it was somewhere over in this lovely place. We get a call home, but yes, it is Austin instead.
Yep, Circuit of the Americas. It's a track that's been around for on a couple seasons, has been a test bed for some of the evaluation races. My home race that I'm cursed on, and I've always had a bad result. Such things happen. So hopefully I can break that streak. One of 2 American races this season. We are testing out the new Miami track a little bit later in the season. But we will get everything sorted out. Check the YouTube channel as the race replays go up over the course of the next couple of days. We'll get those loaded and ready and up for you guys. And of course, keep an eye on the Instagram and Twitters as we get some of the information out, standings and podiums. But thank you,
Yes.
Turbo, for joining me on this one after Division 4's thing, I'll call it, yesterday. And the destruction of my voice. It was great to have a co-commentator, and especially thank you for doing the back-to-back, coming straight from the PlayStation race onto this one.
Of course, happy to have joined you, and Spa absolutely delivered yet again, and I'm happy to have been alongside you to help commentate.
Well, we will see you guys next week. Of course, keep an eye on FRS Motorsports and FRS Community over the course of the weekend. I believe it should be Motorsports on Friday. You will see PC Division R, where all the strategy information that a lot of the drivers here in Div 2 picked up was completely thrown out the window by the rain. So we will see Austin, not a high chance of rain in this one. Typically much lower than what we've seen in Spa, of course, but should be a good race. Technical track, good track you can race side by side on. So hopefully we should have another exciting one. Well, thank you all once again, and we will catch you next week. Peace out, and thank you again, AWB.
Of course, thank you.